Hi, this is Dan Henk, and welcome to another session of the Soul Sessions. Today, my guest is Brennan LaFaro. That's correct,
LaFaro,
right?
you are so
La,
close.
see, I knew I'd fuck it up. But all right, so we did this, and then like everything fucked up, so we had to start over again. So this is our second attempt. Hopefully, this will go good. So, all right, you were talking about how you have problems with indie publishers, like everyone has, like indie publisher will open, they'll be open for like 5 years, and then suddenly they disappear along with all the money they owe you, and maybe your book rights, and who the fuck knows what else. But you're saying you're with somebody good right now, like you had something planned, and then like your previous publisher, they went bankrupt, and then you're like, what am I gonna do? And then you found somebody good. Is
Yeah,
that
that's
kind of
that's
right?
that's pretty much an accurate account of it. And but like I said, or like I had said, and it was recorded and it's gone now. But I've had this happen twice, for different reasons. And part of it is definitely the fact that pretty much anybody can be a publisher. Anybody can hit that button on Amazon, and it really takes a lot of commitment. Um, and then sometimes you see places do it the right way for, like you said, up to 5 years, or sometimes even longer. And then just shit hits the fan. Whatever, life happens, something happens, and it leaves a lot of authors with books to place. There's almost always financial discrepancies, but that's the negative side. The
Right.
positive side, like you said, is the place that went under um, had had my series that I call the Buzzard's Edge Saga. And it's a horror western series, and I did find a great home for them with Bridget's Gate. And when I froze on you, I was trying to show you the cover. Apparently, it was so great that it obliterated my computer here.
It's
But
possible, yeah.
yeah, entirely possible. But this is cover art by Val Halverson, um, who did just an incredible job of really capturing the spirit of the book. And in a nutshell, it starts off with 1872 in the Arizona territories, and you've got this 8-year-old kid riding a train with his parents, and all of a sudden, this notorious outlaw named George Noose Holcomb, hence the title, pulls up alongside the train, hops on, and just slaughters the whole train car, leaves this kid alive, hands him a bullet, and disappears out of his life for the next 15 or so years. So the majority of the book is essentially him trying to track down is the main character, a guy named Rory Daggett, trying to track down this outlaw and his gang of rogues, and just kind of exact revenge. Um, and one thing that I like to kind of use as a selling point is I wrote that first chapter and I said, okay, I've got this kid with rich parents. Parents get blown away in front of him, and he spends a lot of his life, trying to track down the guy who did it and, make things right for it. And I said, man, you just wrote Batman. That's Batman. You wrote Batman. So as opposed to trying
Well,
to,
that is a fairly common theme. It's just how
it
well
is.
you do it. Yeah.
It is, and it was that was the thing. I wasn't going to scrap it like, it's too close to Batman. No, that's one of the old stories in the book.
We know,
But
like, one of my, sorry, side
no, go
note,
ahead.
real quick, one of my favorites is The Shadow. And
Mhm.
Batman is based off The Shadow. Like, they basically said, we'll just, like, take The Shadow and make him, like, a superhero in comic books.
Yeah,
And that, like, even, even like Bob Kane talks about that. Like, that's basically what they did. And at the time, comics were very small. Now Batman is huge. But, you know, yeah.
it's kind of like the Star Wars and Dune thing.
Right.
But
I like both
um,
actually, but yeah.
no, I think you can be a fan of either. But it's like a lot of people see the new Dune remakes and they'll be like, it's just ripping off Star Wars. It's like, well, I mean, if we're
People do that all the time. Yeah.
yeah,
You're like people all the time say, "Oh, that's ripping off Halloween." I'm like, no, they're all inspired by Halloween. Or they say Halloween's ripping that off, and I'm like, they're all inspired by Halloween. It's like,
yeah.
how is Halloween ripping them off when Halloween came before them?
No, and I think that's I'm going to go off on a tangent here, but I believe you said that was okay. Um, I think of it not as ripping off. Inspired, is definitely one way to think about it. But I like to think of art as, whether it's movies, books, whatever, as kind of being in conversation with each other. It's a response, if you like. And like I said, I looked at that first chapter. I said, you just wrote Batman, but instead of scrapping it, saying it's too similar, people call me a ripoff artist. Um, I kind of leaned into it. I said, well, okay, but like I've got this gang of people that I want my main character to go after. What if I like vaguely model them on Batman villains and have, obviously give them an 1870s, new frontier twist. You can't exactly put Mr. Freeze out there, but that's essentially how I came up with that rogues gallery that, he tries to
Well,
tear through.
in a way, they're such strong stories. That's why people continue to use them.
Mhm.
And because the stories are strong, it makes for something good that interests people. So if you just try and be totally different, you might not resonate with that because you might like go totally different, but like nobody, feels that like themselves. Only you feel that. Only you have the emotions connect to that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, like Star Wars, I know George Lucas based a lot of it off of like myths and legends and so on and stuff, and that resonates.
Of course it resonates. Yeah. I mean, it's the tales you tell around the campfire to keep the darkness in the woods.
Right.
Um, the whole reason we tell stories in
Or
the
bring the
first place.
darkness in, depending on
Or
your.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. Invite the darkness to sit at the campfire with you.
Right.
So, I mean, I kind of tried to write it so that if you were in on the secret and you're like, oh, this is you could appreciate like the subtle Batman references, but they're also not so overt that you get 30 pages in and it's like, okay, I can't, I don't want to read a
Well, like I
Gotham
said,
story set
Batman
in
is a
West.
bite on something else. So, like,
Yep.
as long as you kind of do your own thing with it, I mean, I don't think that that's even a problem. I don't even think, like, I know, like, one of my favorite movie, actually, my favorite movie ever is The Shining. And I
Yep.
know Stephen King hates The Shining because he says it's not directly a copy of his book. It's like,
Hmm.
well, why would you want that? That's Stanley Kubrick's interpretation of The Shining. And Stanley Kubrick is a master.
Yep.
So that's his interpret. So I can view both, and I can go, okay, well, this is one entity and this is another entity. Are they well done? That's all that really matters.
Yeah. And I think I agree with you. I think there's two ways of looking at it. And I can certainly understand from the perspective of the creator, like you make all these choices when you're writing a story, when you're writing a book, and if you see one of those choices reinterpreted in a way that's not meaningful to you, it's definitely going to set something off. And I think you could definitely appreciate it as a separate piece of art, but I can also understand being
No,
kind of
I hear what you're saying.
yeah,
Yeah, but
but
I
also
think the difference is Stanley Kubrick is so good. It's like it's not like a crappy interpretation. It's
yeah,
just it's slightly different, But it's like for instance, if like somebody David Lynch took like one of my books and made into a David Lynch movie, and it's not really my book, but it's David Lynch's version of it. I'm a big fan of him as an artist. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not my book, but that's his interpretation of it.
yeah. And also there's I love the age old idea that whatever the movie or the miniseries or whatever adaptation, whatever it becomes, whatever it turns into, the book is still on the shelf. The story didn't go anywhere.
That's true.
And
Yeah.
yeah, the artists, whether it's you or whether it's Stephen King sitting in his mansion in Florida, um, that
Well,
original
if you look at
interpretation is
people
there.
that didn't complain about it, like Philip K. Dick, who
Hmm.
wrote, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is turned into Blade Runner. So if you've read the original story, it's quite a bit different than the movie, but Philip K. Dick wasn't complaining about it, and Ridley Scott made a masterpiece. So, it's like win-win.
Yeah. And truth be told, if the check clears and I've got, people picking up the, movie poster cover of my book with and wondering why it's so different from the movie, again, the check still clears. I could live with
Right.
that. And I think it'd be interesting to kind of see like
Well,
somebody reads your book and they put their own spin on it.
I think the problem arises when somebody cranks out a very crappy version of, so it does a disservice to your original work.
Hmm.
Like, for instance, like they did Spawn, the movie Spawn.
Yeah.
So Todd McFarlane, wrote that and drew that, and that was his baby. And they made it into a movie. And those were the early days of CGI. And they used horrible CGI,
Yeah.
especially on Spawn's Row. Like it was like so bad, it was like hard for you to watch it. It's like I think they did a disservice. Like now they're making a new one, like a live action Spawn.
Yep.
So I can't wait to see that. But it's like, you know, I understand if they, if they do dirty to your work, I understand. But if they just do something different, then that's their interpretation.
Yeah, and I mean it's always interesting to look. I think that was 97 or so,
Right.
somewhere around there. Um, to look back and like, yeah, you see that like the Spawn scene where they're in hell, and it's cringeworthy now, but it's like I wonder. I can't remember how like 12-year-old me viewed that. If I was like, wow, that looks like absolute shit,
No,
or if I was like, wow, this is cutting edge.
that's a good point. I mean, there are movies I saw when I was a kid. Like I saw Last Starfighter, which
Mhm.
when I saw that, I saw it in theaters as a kid, and I was like, "Oh, it's amazing! This is the best ever." And then I resaw it like a year ago. I'm like, actually, a lot of it is kind of cheesy. Like whenever like a ship gets hit by like a laser or whatever, like
Yep.
they just shake the camera to simulate, and you can tell like it. So it's like the idea was good, but yeah, kind of
Using the
rough.
term special effects very, very loosely there.
Well, and I think this stuff has a lot more impact on you when you're a kid. Like I saw Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom when I was a
Yep.
kid. I was like, holy shit, he ripped his heart out. Oh my God. And then you watch it and you're like, dude, this is so cheesy.
Yeah, but man, that movie totally holds up.
Well, I think the first one, you can't fuck with it. I mean, the first one is awesome just the way it is. It's
Yeah.
not like, wish CGI was a little better. It's like, because there's no CGI.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could argue that the face melting scene is not wonderful looking, but
Oh, it's so great.
yeah, okay. I mean, I guess if we look at it like, does this look like a melting face, or is this fucking awesome?
What, did you take somebody out and melt their face? How do you know what a face melting scene looks like?
As a horror writer, it's my job to know. No, I have no idea. You make a really good point there.
I have to test everything. So if the arm gets sawed off in the book, I have to saw off somebody's arm. So
Exactly. That whole thing where, our Google search histories are really, really just
really light.
attracting attention somewhere on the internet.
Well, what I've done actually is when I do like a horrific scene in one of my books, I try to look up like war footage or like
Mm,
terrorist footage, and so I figured because I'm not gonna see somebody get like blown up, but
yeah.
I could probably find because everything's in social media now. Like you were really screwed back in the days.
Yeah, to use
Which
your
I think is
imagination.
why it's so impressive when like Poe or Lovecraft did that. And it's like they really evoked something that they obviously could not see.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe it was lucky guesses, or maybe it was nighttime excursions.
Maybe there was a side to them we didn't
Yeah,
see, so.
it wouldn't shock me.
Well, I know Poe was pretty famously an alcoholic and he
Hmm.
died broke in the gutter.
Yeah,
And I mean, he's an amazing writer, but it's like, also, I think there was something about, like something with his family or his bloodline, something where like they were more affected by alcohol. So if they had like one drink, it fucked them up more than it would an average person. I'm not sure it's the only to that, but
yeah. No, I never heard that, but it would track. I mean, that was uh Poe was your typical like tortured artist, drinking his creativity. But
Mhm. Well, I think one thing that needs to get it kind of seems off topic, but I think it's relevant. Is like everybody who puts out good art is simply like they went through a journey to get where they are. It's not like it happened overnight. Like all of a sudden you were the next big thing. It's like no, they toil hard to get there. They like they gave out stuff for free. They bugged all their neighbors. They bugged all their friends. They like, I've gone to like local like comic shops and local bookstores, and like
Yep.
everybody does that. If you look at like Black Flag is like big in punk rock now, but back in the day, they're all living together in one place. They were like,
Yeah.
they're making their own paste because you can afford to buy paste. They were like plastering flyers on all the telephone poles and stuff. Yeah, they're living a hard life.
Yeah, I mean that's the the metal credo. I remember watching like an interview with like James Hetfield of Metallica, where he's talking about how their go-to food, and Metallica is like one of the biggest bands in the world,
I think
and
they're the biggest right now. Yeah.
they could absolutely be. I wouldn't argue that. And they're talking about eating hand sandwiches, which is just like a piece of deli meat in your hand, and hope you didn't want bread because we can't
Yeah.
afford it. Um, you gotta fight for your hearts, I guess.
Yeah, no, I've heard lots of stories like Brad Pitt was like sleeping in the car,
Mhm.
we couldn't even afford to have an apartment. But yeah, if you think you got something, keep trying. Like, don't give up. But yeah, you're not overnight successes. So all right, let's move on to the what you're talking about with the publisher. Like, did you have one bad experience with a publisher and then you got a better one? Did you have to kind of go through the rounds and like, this isn't working for you, this is whatever?
Yeah. I'm gonna give you the long version if you don't mind, because because it's a long version. So I put my first book with a publisher about 4 years ago. A book called Slattery Falls. It was a New England ghost story, haunted house. My I think my favorite like comp review of it was said it was the Scooby Doo gang goes to the House of Leaves. So that came out in 2021, and it did pretty well, for small press numbers, as far as I know. And probably about 6 months later, that publisher got chased offline. They put it's kind of the danger in that all of your advertising and all of your so much of your connection is done via social media, and if you do something that the masses don't like, you're going to hear about it. And I have no plans to comment on how I feel about what they did, but I will say that I don't love the idea that like if you make a mistake, well, that's it, your business is gone and you have to delete your account or else.
With the whole like cancel culture thing, like, one thing and like boom.
Yeah, and I think there's some, not to go down this rabbit hole, but I think there's some disingenuousness. I tried it, I didn't get it, but it's a disingenuous attitude.
No,
Um,
no, I agree. I agree. Like,
because
there are definitely some real cases of abuse,
yeah,
but there's also a lot of like swindlers out there,
yeah. hmm Well, and I think a lot of it is you made a mistake and you need to do better because the attitude is you harmed people and you need to apologize to them and you need to make it right. But then a lot of times, and this publisher was an example, you're not allowed back in the space to make your apology. So it's like you're told what you need to do, but you're not allowed to do it. So, like I said, that's a totally different story.
It's
I could
either
talk
here or
about.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
No, like most of what I've had a problem with, and what a number of people that I know have had a problem with, is like you'll have a publisher and they'll go out of business,
hmm
um, which isn't as bad as when the publisher all of a sudden starts trying to be like they're like a tyrant, like telling you what to do and all this sort of stuff. Like I had I can talk shit about them because everyone hates them and they're bankrupt now. But like Damnation Books, like Damnation Books picked up one of my books.
hmm
We signed a contract, and then they tried to do all this stuff. Like I paint all the covers for my books. And everyone at their art department, their art department's like, "Oh yeah, great." So then I did the cover. So then I sent them the cover, and they put like this like border and redid the lettering and stuff, and it looked
Yeah.
fucking horrible. And I was trying to be nice about it. I was like, "Yeah, well, I'm not a big fan of this." Blah blah. Like, no, this is the way it's gonna go. I'm like, no, actually, in my contract, it doesn't go like that. And then, and then they did some other stuff they like put all these edits in there
Hmm.
that I didn't agree with and stuff.
Yeah, that's ugly.
Yeah, and so in the end, I was like, "Do not put my work out. I want my contract back." You
Yep.
know, and then they were refusing, even though it was a violation of what I signed. I had to get a lawyer to get my rights
Oh
back.
man.
And then when I finally, submitted everything to them, they sent me a release form purposely to the wrong address.
Yeah, just
And
mind
now they're
games at that
bankrupt,
point.
and everyone hates them, because they
Yeah.
pull similar stuff. But I know a lot of indie publishers have done stuff like that.
Yep. Now, okay, all right, I'm gonna change my tune a little bit because even though I've had two go under, that first one never mistreated me. Like
Right.
they were good to me. They paid on time. And when they went under, they paid everything they owed me.
That was
Um,
great. Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
So
And
they did the right thing. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And truth be told, I'm still friendly with the person who ran it. So, and as far as I've heard the horror stories of people of editors basically accepting your book and then trying to change the whole thing, of getting stuck with these miserable covers or alterations to them. And thankfully, I haven't had to deal with that. I really think that the best part of being with smaller publishers is just what a collaborative environment it is, because yes, okay, it's to a degree it's kind of understood that it's not quite up to traditional publishing, but there are a lot of people that will intentionally put books with smaller publishers. I think of like a Clay McLeod Chapman, um, Nat Cassidy, who have traditionally published books, but also work with smaller presses because they can kind of take those riskier things and they can have a little bit more input than something that's shipping to 500 Barnes and Noble stores across the country. Um, so to me, that's the strong point of small press publishing, and I have had good experiences there. Great editors who are very clear, like, I think you should do this, but it's your story, and we're not going to hold you to that. Especially if you can kind of like present your side and make the point that, well, here's why I want to keep this phrasing, here's why I want to keep this plot point. Um, and then every publisher I've worked on has been very collaborative about cover art, and I've certainly been lucky there. But I got advice early on about not putting all your eggs in one basket, and for better or worse, I published with probably about five different publishers now, maybe six, and I do think it's good advice. There are some I've worked with that I like what they've done for me. I'm not sure I would put another book with them. There are some that I've worked with multiple times because they're professional, they pay on time, they pay well, and they promote the books, or choose anything on that list. They do it the right way, and they're just pleasant people to work with. I think there's a lot of good ones out there, and they just get overshadowed by the ones that
No,
go
well,
bad.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Like my current publisher right now is Crossroad Press, and
Mm.
it's David Neil Wilson, Niall Neil. I don't know how you pronounce it, but
Nile, I
he,
believe, but yeah, I
yeah,
have some books with them
he's an
too, and I would say
awesome
great
guy,
books.
and
Yep.
he totally takes care of everything. He's like
Hmm.
very like very communicative, very like for instance, my attorney asked for a tax form, so I texted him or I emailed him today. Within an hour, he got to me.
Yeah.
He's just a very nice guy.
Yep.
So I have absolutely nothing bad to say and lots of good stuff to say about Crossroad Press. You know, like, and there were like before that, I was with, and I don't care, I'll say the name, but I was with Bermuda Press, which then became Post Hill Press, and
Okay.
they were pulling a lot of the stuff on a lot of their signed authors. Fortunately, they didn't pull it on me, but I kind of saw it coming. And then, a lot of those authors, like some of the stronger ones, went to Crossroad Press. And so they recommended me to Crossroad Press. I was like, I'm going to try that.
Yeah.
Then I remember like I wanted the race back to my early stuff with Bermuda Press, and they tried to like say, give us thousands of dollars. It's like, yeah,
Yeah. No, I have 4 books out with Crossroad, and they've been awesome to work with. David Niall Wilson, and also if you've worked with David Dodd, just
Yeah,
the
yeah.
nicest dude in the world, and they're so
We've done
responsive.
Scares and Cares the last few years in
Okay.
a row, and he was my roommate.
Yeah, no, really cool guy. Even if he is a Philadelphia 76ers fan, which I can't.
That's what you hold against him.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, I'll email him about business stuff, and then I'll poke at him for somebody that they signed or for them bowing out of the playoffs. But
Right, right. Well, that's fairly minor. Although some people are like sports fanatics. So, all right. So, if people want to see what you're doing, do you have a website? Do you have an Amazon authors page, a Goodreads page?
I do. I have, if you go to brennanlafaro.com, there are links to all the social media stuff that you could possibly need. You can sign up for my newsletter, which is probably the best way to get all that stuff with social media kind of collapsing around its ears. That's brennanlafaro.substack.com, but you can find that on the website as
Well,
well.
it changes all the time. Do you have like a link tree or anything where people
Yep,
can?
absolutely. Also on the website. Just go
Okay.
to brennanlafaro.com, and it's your one-stop shop for I think everything you could possibly need.
Okay. Do you have a Amazon authors page? Could they go
Yep,
there
and
and see you?
I do believe that that's linked on there too. But yeah, I have an Amazon author page.
And are you on Goodreads?
I am on Goodreads
So
too
you're on
frequently,
everything
probably.
basically. Are you on
Yep,
TikTok?
and not. I won't do it. I feel
Don't do
like
the
I've
little
tiptoed up to
dances.
the edge yeah, I've tiptoed up to the edge of being forced to. Like you keep hearing like, oh, you need to if you wanna push books, you gotta be on TikTok, and I don't want it that bad. I guess I don't know.
I don't know if it does that much for you. I mean, I have more than 1,000 followers in TikTok, but that didn't do anything for my sales.
Yeah,
There's people all over the world that go, "Oh, this is kind of cool." I don't think it really does much for you, but who knows? I don't know.
I think I think in general, social media is a crapshoot. I think TikTok is the crapshootiest of crapshoots. It's like some people will go on there and like make a little video and it goes viral and you sell 50,000 books. Some people will,
Yeah,
study
no,
the
that's true.
algorithm, make those videos and
Right
try
time,
and
right place, right
yeah,
whatever. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
All right, so before we wrap this up, let me ask you two things. One, as far as your style of like writing, do you have like people hate to do this, but if you had to say it's kind of like this, like if you like this, you like my stuff, what would that be?
I mean, it's so cheap to say if you like King, you'll like what I'm bringing to the table. My two most well regarded, in my opinion anyway, pieces are that Slattery Falls trilogy I mentioned, and I'd say that definitely owes a lot to like Salem's Lot, and it has that kind of Kingian bigger world style, but working class characters that you can relate to. Whereas I think the westerns,
I think that's his strength. Like his
yeah,
character building is his strength.
yeah, and I like to think that's what that is too. Is it started. I said I wanted to write a haunted house book, and then it turned into a trilogy because I said I want to follow these characters. I want to see where they're off to next and what's happening. And that's what it is. It's you're putting people you care about in bad situations, and the people yes, the situation should be interesting. You should be able to describe them in a sentence and elevator pitch them, but at the same time, if I
But
don't care about
sometimes
the
they're kind of
characters,
shitty people and they get their comeuppance.
that too. But interesting is the key word. You can be good,
Right.
you can be shitty, and both of those can be described as interesting. As far as the Western stuff, they definitely owe a lot to Joe Lansdale. Um,
Yeah.
his
I just met
conversational.
him actually. He was
Did
at a
you?
convention I went to, and he's a really nice guy. I mean,
Oh,
he's up
nicest
there
dude
in
in the
age, but
world.
he's a really nice guy.
Yeah, and Joe can talk. Joe can talk and talk and talk. And it's all interesting. You never tune out. Like the dude could tell stories, about growing up, for hours, and I'd be on the edge of my seat.
Well, I did have a long conversation with him because I felt bad. I think it was the Dallas AuthorCon I was at. that he was at, and I knew he had like a corner booth, and like he kind of seemed like in the middle of doing something, and I just thought
Yeah.
I'd say hello. But yeah, he's a nice guy.
Yep. Absolutely. But yeah, I would say that these definitely the Western books definitely have a fair bit of Lansdale to them.
Okay, I think kind of going off that, like anybody that's good at telling a story, they can write in almost any genre. Like
Hmm.
really like Richard Matheson. He wrote I Am Legend, Hell
Yep.
House, and Stir of Echoes, and he wrote a Western. I'm like, it can't be bad because it's Richard Matheson. So I picked it up. It's good. It's a
Yeah.
good
What's it
story.
called?
It's a well told story.
I don't have that one. What's it called?
Um, I'll have to email you what it is because I
Oh,
have to
okay.
look it up.
Sorry, I
I
put
think
you on the
it's
spot.
something of the Yellow Sun or Young Sun or something,
Oh,
but
maybe I
I'm not
have
sure
heard of that.
offhand.
Yeah, maybe
I
I
mean,
have
I'm
heard of
sure
that.
if you looked up like Amazon Richard Matheson, it'll come up.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, the last thing I was going to ask is, do you have any recommendations? Like, people should check this out. Like, I always tell people they should check out Cabinet of Curiosities, like the Del Toro one,
Yep.
if they haven't. But do you have anything you'd recommend?
I would recommend an author. There is an author out of Portland, Oregon, named Tyler Jones, who is, mark my words, going to blow up any day now. He has released a couple things through Earthling Publications, who do these really awesome limited hardcovers. And once those books, do their limited run and they get picked up by a major publisher, that dude is going to become a household name. He is empathetic is the best word. There is so much hope in his writing, and without sacrificing any darkness. I mean, these are horror books, but like there's just this light at the center of them that I can't compare it to anybody else's writing.
Yeah, it
He's got a
seems
book.
like a lot of people now with horror, they just want to like beat you down with like how horrific they can be. It's like,
Yeah.
what happened to the good story? Like that's one thing
Well,
I like about Stephen King. It's like even
exactly what I
though
was
a
going to say.
bunch of horrible stuff happens, there's still kind of some hope, some promise.
There is, and his best known stuff, the Dark Tower, they all end with these, or toward the end at least, they end with these
Although I do like
beautiful.
it when the kid's hand gets bitten off about the clown.
You gotta love that stuff too, but like then it leads into the part about standing against the darkness, and to me, like that's the best part about horror is. I'm not there to be overwhelmed by the darkness, at least not when the credits roll. It's like I want to see these people stand against the darkness, and if that's not the true idea of horror, well, okay,
I don't
but
know if
that's what
there
I like.
is a true idea of horror. I think anybody that
Yeah.
tries to be a gatekeeper is like they're full of it. But yeah, no, I like it when people like I wouldn't necessarily say I like happy endings,
Hmm.
but that's a double entree.
Yeah.
But I'd say like if it's a good story, and I would like if there's like a cool character for him to live and kind of get ahead.
Yeah.
It can be super horrific, but like I don't know if you saw Book of Eli.
Yeah. Yep.
Like with the Book of Eli, I wouldn't want this Washington to die. It's
Yeah.
cool that he lives. He goes through all this horrible shit, but it's cool that he lives.
Yeah. And I mean, we're semi spoiling like a 20-year-old movie, 15-year-old movie, but like the twist reveal is killer. Like you could tell me you saw it coming, but
I
I
think the
won't
twist
believe you.
reveal is cool. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean to like kill him after that would be a little damp.
Right. It would that would be a very dark ending because if he was the only one that had access to that, yeah. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean Gary Oldman's in that. It's an awesome movie,
Yeah.
And I'm not religious, and you should still check it out.
Yep.
That might be a spoiler, but all right. So thanks, man. Thanks for doing this. Do you have anything else you want to throw out there for the interweb?
No, I mean, go check out if westerns are your thing. I've got Noose out. I've got The Demon of Devil's Cavern, which is the sequel. There is a story collection set in that 1880s Arizona town called Where the Daybreak Ends, which will be out in December. And I would also add, if you don't like westerns, well, good news. These are good. These are going to be for you too. Um, I like to the first book, that haunted house one, focuses around ghost hunters, and I wrote it and I was excited about it, and I had people saying nobody wants to read a fucking ghost hunters book, and I said, okay, well, that's
Really?
fine.
You think that'd be big?
You'd think so, but no. I don't know. I think people got burned out on that kind of like, sci-fi channel obsession that the country had with it for a while. But I was seeing so many reviews that said I don't like ghost hunter books, and with this one, I borderline saw it coming. I don't like westerns, but so I mean that's my brand. If you like westerns, I got a western for you. If you don't like westerns, good news. A lot of people who don't like westerns dig this book. So
But dark tinged westerns.
dark, absolutely weird westerns, horror westerns with a fair like touch of supernatural, and dark, dark, dark above all else. So
Yeah, I'm doing the last couple things I'll say. I'm doing a sorcerer mythology, and it's like kind of westerns, kind of horror westerns. And I was like, how about I do kind of a cowboys versus aliens vibe?
there you go. Yeah.
I thought that was a cool twist. But yeah, definitely everybody check out his stuff. Do you have anything else you want to toss out there?
No, I think I plugged hard enough for now, but I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, man. Well, thanks for being on here.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate your time, man.